So last week, Racer.com broke a pretty big story in the world of IndyCar racing that Continental Tire, the sole tire supplier at the moment for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the Global Rallycross, has expressed interest in building tires for the Verizon IndyCar Series. Now, at the moment, this would be as the sole tire supplier, and of course, at the moment, the sole tire supplier is Firestone. And as reported in Racer, and pretty much obvious to anybody who is being able to pay attention to IndyCar racing, Firestone and IndyCar are pretty happy with their relationship at the moment. So what would it take to get a switch from Firestone tires to Continental in IndyCar racing? Well, I would say that the promise of free or significantly discounted tires would be a major plus from switching from Firestone to Continental. At the moment, Firestone is simply a supplier to the teams. They are not partners with the teams, meaning there's really not a lot of money exchanged for teams running Firestone tires. It's simply a supplier relationship. There is some business-to-business relationship between Firestone and the series, but the teams see none of that money. They are simply customers. So bringing in Continental potentially could create more of a partnership relationship between the teams and the tire supplier, which would mean cost savings, of course, for the teams. However, this has been talked about in IndyCar racing before. In 2013, Firestone was prepared to leave the series full stop. In response to this, the then CEO of IndyCar, Randy Bernard, went to Continental to see if they were willing to supply the tires. They were not only willing to supply the tires, but they were willing to provide $100 million in title sponsorship over the next 10 years, meaning from 2013 to 2023. Unfortunately, when the teams and the senior drivers, including Dario Franchitti to name a few, got wind of this situation, they pushed very, very hard for the ousting of Randy Bernard as the CEO. And guess what? The teams and the drivers got their way. Bernard was out, and Firestone was re-upped for a much more lucrative deal with Firestone in terms of Firestone was able to raise the price on their tires, cut a lot of the promotion that they were doing for IndyCar in exchange for sticking around and keeping some of that peace of mind that the teams and drivers have with Firestone. But to be honest with you, it would be ludicrous, in my mind, for IndyCar to turn away a potential partner like Continental. Continental is out of IMSA next year, and they have a lot of spending capability and clearly want to continue in big-time motorsport. But with the teams being confident in Continental, with the teams being confident in Firestone, how would you ever implement Firestone or a switch from Firestone to Continental? Now, there's talk as well from the Continental side of things that they want to partner with an existing team, and that existing team is Andretti Autosport. They want to spend a season with Andretti Autosport developing the tires that they would use for the IndyCar Series, while, of course, Andretti Autosport would run on Firestone tires in the series. That could potentially create a bit of a rift between between Andretti Autosport and Firestone, not to say the least of which, but would also, of course, give Andretti Autosport the advantage when everybody switches from one tire brand to the other. But again, like I said, what do? You've got a big major company looking to come into the sport, wanting to come into the sport. They're doing the calling. IndyCar is not called Continental on this one. They have contacted IndyCar. So, what do? In my opinion, you let the free market decide. You get your Continentals, you get your Firestones. You let them all in. Now, of course, there's always going to be the people talking about how dangerous tire wars are. Let's just keep in mind here the percentage of times that tire wars have really been blamed for any kind of major failures or any kind of accidents in general. I mean, I bet you could count the examples on one hand. And to think that a sole tire supplier is a guarantee of a safe tire is simply ludicrous and frankly inaccurate. I mean, all we have to do is go back to Texas of last year to be able to see that even a sole tire supplier can bring a bad batch of tires and have a total farce created because of those tires. I think the benefits far outweigh the doubts of allowing both Firestone and Continental to provide tires to IndyCar racing. Not only do you allow some of the old fogies and the curmudgeons who want to pay any price to keep Firestone tires on their cars because they trust them, they can have that option. But for the teams that want to take a chance, for the teams that maybe can have some financial help by switching to Continental tires, again, whether it be the tire sponsorship in which Continental literally gives them tires for free and pays the teams to run them, or in the the least beneficial way, which is still a benefit, a massive tire discount. If Continental provides a cheaper product that performs relatively close to what Firestone provides, again, that's cost savings for the teams. That's a good thing when you're trying to grow the sport. And talking in general, I'm sure there will be an argument that comes up that says, well, a tire war never put a butt in the seat. Nobody bought a ticket to see Firestone compete with Continental on the track. Well, maybe fans don't necessarily buy tickets because of a tire war, but I'll tell you who does: Continental, Firestone. If they are in a competitive nature in human beings just in general always drives that spirit of, hey, we've got X, Y, and Z, either distributors, our employees, investors. We're going to buy tickets to Pocono. We're going to buy, hundreds of tickets to Pocono, give them out to our employees, and have a picnic. It's the reason Mid-Ohio's on the schedule, that bore fest of a race. It's because of the fact that it's a Honda picnic. It's where they put all of their employees. It's why Detroit, that bore fest is on the schedule. It's because it's a picnic for Chevy employees. So if you look at this from the perspective of business, it doesn't make any business sense to just turn Continental away. There's too much money at stake. TV deals as well. You can leverage TV deals because guess who's going to be buying a lot of TV advertisements? If Firestone isn't, by the way, they don't anymore, I guarantee you that Continental would if they were in a competitive environment with Firestone. But again, I look at it this way. If you switch completely one way or the other, just on a dime, if you turn Continental away, it's a terrible idea, but it's also a bad idea if you turn Firestone away and say, well, Continental gave us a better deal, we're just going to go with a sole tire supplier, because then you'll end up pissing off the teams and the drivers because you're not giving them that choice to stick with a tire they're comfortable with. Again, free market. Let the free market decide this one. Don't decide it in a boardroom. Decide it on the racetrack. If we're going to have a sole tire supplier anyway, I'd like to remind everyone that the last tire war in IndyCar racing lasted only 4 years, between the years of 1995 and 1999, between Goodyear and Firestone. Firestone came into the sport, they provided a better product, eventually pushed Goodyear out. However, those 4 years of tire development, the tire war, the tire money coming into the sport, I would argue helped it a hell of a lot more than it did ever when Firestone has been the sole supplier. And that's nothing against Firestone. I think they do a great job 99.99% of the time. But again, it's about getting money into the team so that they can be self-sufficient and provide a little bit of that competition. And of course, competition means higher budgets, not from the teams. The teams' budgets go down when competition happens, but there's more corporations spending money at IndyCar events for the IndyCar teams, and ultimately it's us, the fans, that benefit. So let me know down in the comments what you think about a potential tire war in IndyCar racing. Do you like the idea of Continental coming in and shaking things up? Do you think they could replace the title sponsor that's exiting of Verizon? Do you think they would provide benefits such as free tires or discounted tires versus Firestone? Or are you just absolutely dead set on Firestone sticking around forever because they provide a very consistent, safe product, again, 99% of the time? I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. It's always an interesting debate. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe for more IndyCar and motorsport content, and we'll see you in the next video.